Well, good morning. My name is Bronson, and I'm so excited to be kicking off a season that we call Athens I Love You. If you're new around here, you picked a great time to be here because you get to understand a little of our heart for the city as a church. But if you've been around here for some time, you know that each fall we set aside some time to intentionally show the love of God to our city in some tangible ways. This is something that we do corporately together, and I'm just really proud of our church for how we lead in this city. Specifically, we've been doing this for a while now, over a decade. The last 12 years, you collectively have given just over $3 million to 26 local nonprofit partners, and you should be really proud of that. Now, notice that I've highlighted the word partners there, and that's because early on we decided as a church that we wanted to be really strategic and focused on our mission to lead people into a growing relationship with Jesus. And so as we strive to be a church that unchurched people love to attend, we know that there are needs all throughout our city. And rather than pioneering new efforts and putting energy into creating new systems, we decided to look around and realize that there were tons of nonprofits in our city that were making a huge difference. And so instead of replicating the work they were already doing, we decided that it would be wise for us to put wind in their sails and partner with them by giving them resources and manpower so that together, collectively, we could have a greater impact together. So over the next couple of weeks, you're going to hear opportunities of steps that you can take to help collectively have a massive impact in our city. Specifically, those steps are give, serve, and love. And you're going to hear more about those steps in the weeks to come. But I wanted to take some time before we hear from some people in our church of stories that highlight the heart behind Athens I Love You. I wanted to take some time and just share a little story that may feel silly to you, but then I want to read a passage of scripture that'll hopefully make a little sense. When I was a fifth grader in 1990 at Big A Elementary School in Toccoa, I still don't know what the A stands for, but it was on Big A Road, so whatever that means. One of the things I looked forward to each year was Field Day. Any Field Day fans from your past? Yeah, I love Field Day. You get to compete against classmates in various activities. And my favorite was the long distance run. And in the long distance run, I knew that there were several people in my class that were as fast or maybe faster than me, but I loved to win. So I concocted a strategy. I gathered a group of friends and pitched the idea of let's all finish together and we can all be winners. And somehow they agreed to that. So we ran this race together, and as we're approaching the finish line, I just had this strange thought. I was like, I can still win this thing. And so we were about 50 feet from the finish line, and I just took off in a dead sprint and I beat him. And I was so excited in the moment to win the long distance race on Field Day. But can I just tell you that 30 years later, all throughout my adult life, there has been random moments that I literally have looked back and recognized that my words and my actions just didn't line up. And for whatever reason, I have thought, man, I'm so ashamed that I did that. I've taught my kids specifically, hey, if you're ever at Field Day and you're running a race and you agree to all go together, don't take off and just sprint at the end. But I don't want my kids to make the mistakes I made, right? We're all in that situation. And I want to challenge us today not to be a people that say one thing but have actions that don't align with those things. And so I want to read a passage. This is 1 John chapter number 3. It's one of the disciples named John writing this, and this is what he says. He says, "This is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters." So this disciple, John, he's calling us to extend to others love that we ourselves have received from Jesus. He goes on in the next chapter to say, we love because he first loved us. So as followers of Jesus, if you call yourself a follower of Jesus, we have this call in our lives, we've received love from Christ, and we are to turn around and give that love to others. Next verse says, if anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need, but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? Now, this word pity isn't like you see a need and you just feel sorry for someone. Oh, that stinks. Sorry you're in that situation. Having no pity in this sense means you have what it takes to meet a need, but you have no compassion to involve yourselves in that person's life. It's a lack of compassion. And so he's telling us, how can the love of God even be in that person if they don't have compassion to meet a need that they're able to meet? And then he says, dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. Let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. And I just want us to notice the different approaches to love that John points out. Words or speech and actions. And I don't want us to be a church where Athens I Love You extends simply to a t-shirt or a car decal. I want us to be a church that's known for our love, that we actively show compassion to help meet needs all throughout our city, and we can make the love in Athens I Love You an action and not just a statement. So I'm really excited for you to meet some people in our church and in our city that are doing an incredible job of showing God's love in action. And to kick us off, our very own Josh Bain is going to introduce us to our first guest.
Thank you, Bronson. Well, I am here with Peter and Rachel, who I'm so excited for them to get to hear your story, but these guys have just entered a new kind of season as a family. So maybe to start us off, just tell us a little bit about your family.
Hey, good morning, and thank you for having us. I'm Peter. This is my wife, Rachel. We're both originally from Georgia. We actually met our very first day of college, and we've been together ever since. Celebrated 15 years of marriage this past July. We've got 3 boys, Jack, who's 14, Sam, who's 12, and Luke, who's 10. We both currently work full-time. I work for the Department of Veterans Affairs and have been there for the past 15 years.
And I'm a teacher. I teach Georgia pre-K in Watkinsville and absolutely love my job. We're a typical family. We're very busy. Our boys play sports. We balance extracurricular activities. Our oldest son runs cross country, and our 2 younger sons play baseball. And we've been here for 4 years. So we moved to Bogart 4 years ago and absolutely love our community. We love our church, and we're just excited to be here this morning.
So you said 3 boys aged 14, 12, and 10? Yes. All right, so we're going to have a special time of prayer just for you guys. I'm going to take up an offering or something, I don't know, for groceries probably. But despite all that and working, both of you working full time, 4 months ago, you guys made a big decision and you became a foster family, which I first just want to say thank you for doing that. If you don't know much about the landscape of, our city, Athens Clarke County currently has 214 kids in foster care, which I don't know if that sounds like a lot to you or little, but there's only currently enough foster homes for 50 of them. And so what happens when you only have, homes for 50 kids? Well, you have to kind of begin looking to surrounding counties. So about 64 of those kids are currently placed in surrounding counties, wider, Barrow, Walton County, stuff like that, which means that like 100 kids have to go somewhere else in the state. Maybe that's Macon, maybe that's Savannah. And that is far from ideal, especially when you think about how the goal of foster care is to reunify kids with their parents. And so what you guys are doing is an amazing just help in general to just open up your homes. But you didn't just do it for one child. You actually have brought 2 children into your home, which is incredible. And honestly, very loving to them as well, because you're allowing them to stay together. So I would love to just hear from y'all. How did you get into this? And how's it going?
So for us, foster care is something that's been on our hearts for about 10 years now. We went to an information meeting about 10 years ago, and our kids were really young at the time. And we just decided the timing wasn't quite right. But it's something that we've thought about and prayed about and talked about a lot. So a year ago, we sat right out where you guys are sitting right now, and we signed up to volunteer through the Athens I Love You campaign with Lydia's Place, which is an organization that helps children who have aged out of foster care. And it really just brought our attention back to the need, and we talked about it, and we prayed about it. And in December, we just decided to go for it and started our training classes, and it took us about 7 months to get our home open and ready to go, and we've been open since June.
And originally we decided just to do one child, one school-age child. But like Josh was saying, there's just such a huge need, especially with sibling pairs, to try to keep these kids together to prevent any further trauma. And when we got the placement call, we thought about it for a minute and then just decided to say yes. And then overnight we went from 3 kids to 5 kids with 2 toddlers.
It was wild. And it was a huge transition from our family. To go from a family of 5 to a family of 7 was big. And foster care is messy, and it's challenging, and it can be really hard. But every day we find joy. These kids are precious and joyful, and they keep us on our toes, and they keep us laughing, and they keep us young. And so even on our hardest days, it's worth it. And we're just thankful. We're thankful that we get to be a part of their lives. We're thankful that we get to be a part of their families' lives. And we don't know how long they're going to be with us, but we truly believe that God placed these 2 children with us for a reason.
Man, that's really cool. I mean, you guys know that you're not alone in this journey, right? There's other foster parents, even at Athens Church. We were talking about that earlier. But I am thankful for an organization that we love to partner with called Chosen for Life, right? Chosen for Life Ministries kind of specializes in a lot of this, and I know you've gotten to know them as well. Talk to us just about what Chosen for Life has been able to do for y'all.
So when we were taking our training, we were told over and over again to make sure to connect with Chosen for Life as soon as you got a placement. So we did. The first thing we did was we signed our kids up for the Your Name Matters program. And a lot of times kids that are entering foster care come with their things in trash bags. And so Chosen for Life provides the children with a personalized duffel bag, a personalized pillowcase, a personalized towel, pajamas, and a children's Bible.
And like Rachel said, when we got them, they didn't have much of anything, and we obviously weren't set up to have 2 toddlers in the house, so there was a lot of scrambling, especially in the early week or 2 of having them. So another thing that Chosen for Life has is a clothing closet, and they stock it full of diapers, wipes, clothing, kids' mattresses, cribs, and anything else you might need. And it's free for foster families to go in and take what they need. And it was certainly, we had most of what we needed, but it was nice to supplement, and that resource was there.
Yes, it was amazing. And then our favorite resource through Chosen for Life is our care team. And care teams are going to look different for each family. But our care team, it's 6 families, and it's led by Chip and Christy Towers, who are dear friends of ours, and they attend church here at Athens Church. And every Tuesday, they bring us dinner. So Tuesday has become our favorite night of the week.
I bet.
And they're there for us. They send us cards, scripture, encouraging messages. They offer to watch the kids so we can have date nights. And anything we need, we know we can pick the phone up, we can send a text, and they're going to be right there for us.
Man, I'm just curious. Raise your hand if you are a part of a care team at Athens Church. You help support. Yeah, that's amazing. So my wife and I do that as well. Incredibly rewarding. And I'll tell you, we're going to talk about this in a couple of weeks. We are actually increasing as a church our involvement with Chosen for Life, and specifically in some real kind of material ways. And so we're going to get to tell you more about something called the Care Portal as well, which is going to be a great way for us to just continue to help. But my last question is this: for anybody who's here who might be where you were 10 years ago, which is, I kind of feel like maybe I'm interested, or I got, as a calling, I don't know, but I just feel like God's speaking to my heart, like maybe foster care is something we could help with, or He's leading us to get involved with, but they're, maybe just really hesitant because, what does that look like? Or just really overwhelmed at the prospect of that, to think about. Again, life is pretty overwhelming already. To think about taking your family from 5 to 7 is a lot. What would you say to that person?
I would say that if you have it in your heart to just take action and take that first step, whatever that may be. Rachel and I are just a pretty average family. We both work full time. We have busy lives. And when we talked about it, there was no good time to get started. And so when we took those first steps, it was rewarding. It's a lot of hard work, but I'm just happy that we can provide a safe space for these kids and until they can get back with their families or whatever the future holds for them. And, to help, it doesn't mean you have to be full-time foster parents. You could be respite care. You could volunteer for an agency such as Chosen for Life and donate your time and resources. Really, any help that you can give foster families directly helps these kids.
Yes, and we just want to say thank you. We want to thank our small group. They've been with us every step of the way. And we want to thank our care team. You guys are absolutely amazing, and we could not do it without you. And just thank you to our family and friends. You know, it takes a village to do this, and we love our village.
Well, I want to tell you, I'm so proud of y'all for taking action. I mean, sitting out there a year ago and thinking we could do something, right? We could get involved with Lydia's Place. So will y'all do me a favor? Will you help me thank these guys?
Well, hey everybody, my name's Mike. I'm one of the pastors on staff here. And I'm here with my friends, Paul Buczynski and Ross Campbell. These guys are physicians. Paul is a doctor in emergency medicine, and Ross is a doctor in dermatology. And I really wanted you to hear from these guys because they have kind of a unique angle on ways to serve in our community and are doing some incredible work. Paul, over 22 years ago now, which is kind of amazing to think about how long this has been going, you saw a need in our community and you did something about it. Tell us about the whole startup of Mercy Health Center. It's still ministering to people to this day, a lot of people every week, day in, day out. Tell me about kicking that off and kind of the vision behind Mercy.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Thank you so much for having us here. In early 2001, a small group of docs and pharmacists and I started getting together and talk and pray, and we all had some similar vision for using healthcare as a vehicle, you know, to show Christ's love for folks and share the gospel. And so without nearly enough preparation, we just were a ragamuffin group of folks. We jumped in, we grabbed some notebook paper and a couple of Rubbermaid totes, and we just started seeing folks downtown. Church let us use our Sunday school rooms, and it's been amazingly faith-growing to see the way God has provided what we've needed along the way. Mercy is only there for seeing folks who are completely uninsured. In other words, we feel like if you've got other resources, whether it's private insurance or Medicaid, Medicare, you have some care. But we just want to see those people that were falling through the cracks. And the goal was, again, to use healthcare as a tool. It's really not ultimately about hypertension and diabetes, although we want to do as good a job, or if not better than anyone in town. But ultimately, we want to say there's a God who really cares about you. And for you to really have a fulfilled life, we need to look at folks as a whole person, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and that's what we simply use healthcare as a tool. I think the simplest way of describing Mercy is that we are a ministry disguised as a health center. It's just a tool that God's given us. It's the way that we try to steward those things that God's given us to further the kingdom. We don't charge folks for our care. We don't take any kind of federal or state money because we don't want to have our hands tied in any way. We want to be able to share the gospel with anyone who comes to the door and love folks really well that way. It's been a challenging last couple of years with things with COVID and some divisive type of issues that have happened. But we've seen God's faithfulness. So grateful for the partnership. Bronson used the word partner earlier, and that so describes well what you all do. You do such a great job in partnering with us. We're so thankful for the encouragement, for the support, and you guys get it. You understand that there's a biblical mandate to care for the poor. So thank you so much for your partnership.
Well, we're glad to be partners. In fact, if we weren't partners, I might be your healthcare provider, and you would not get very good care. So, but man, we just love the fact that you are using your gift and kind of your calling as a physician to leverage that for the sake of the gospel. Ultimately, people need Jesus, and that's at the heart of your ministry. Ross, for you, you've been serving at Mercy as a volunteer physician for years now. Tell us a little bit about how you got connected and what you love about being part of it.
Well, thanks. Our journey in Athens and at Athens Church really began with Mercy too. 17 years ago, we moved to Athens. And on one of those weekends that we were exploring it, trying to figure out this is where we really wanted to live, we went to church at Cedar Shoals when Athens Church was starting there. And I went to a Mercy fundraiser that weekend, met Paul, and really got a vision for what this community is like and people that are part of it. So it's strange to be on the stage 17 years later, and we moved here, and this has all kind of happened. What I love about Mercy is it just brings taking care of people, back to just the raw love of doing that. Patients come in, they have a need. You just cut through all the everything and just get to take care of them and to be the hands and feet of Jesus. And it's beautiful. Some of my most grateful patients in my whole career have been patients we met at Mercy. And when you realize that, one cool thing that happens is some of the patients I've seen at Mercy end up getting a leg up, a hand up, and a couple years go by, and then I'm seeing them in my clinic. They got insurance. They got more stability. Others I've seen in my clinic, and then things didn't shake out so well, and then I saw them at Mercy. The fact that it's such a thin line between making things ends meet for some folks, it makes me really grateful for Mercy and that it's there.
Yeah, I love that, your heart to care for the poor and people who are in need. Ross, you've been serving around here for a while too, and you've been part of our stewardship team. You are now one of our elders currently, which is like our board of directors. And I know that you love this season that we call Athens I Love You, that comes around every year, and it's when we get to give back to the city and make an impact. Tell me a little bit about why that is so special to you.
We do love Athens I Love You. It's the most exciting time for our practice, our family. Generosity is a pillar in our family values and in our office as well. And we love Athens. You walk around, drive through Athens, you see so many needs, and then you see so many organizations, great organizations, trying to take care of those needs. But it's overwhelming, and in many ways that can be paralyzing too. I just want to make the right choice. I want to do the right thing, invest the right. And Athens Church through Athens I Love You does all that hard work for us. They've vetted the agencies, they've discovered needs, and they plug us, our funds, into those needs. And then they come back around and check to make sure that all that really happened. So if you think about investing in our city and honestly just loving the poor and loving those in need, I can't think of a better return on our investment than that. And so we get really pumped up this time of year and it's just excited to, honestly, Jesus gets the credit for all of it. And I'm thankful that you guys do this to allow us to participate.
Well, I love that. I love your heart for Jesus in that, in ministering to him and him getting the credit. I just want to thank you on behalf of everybody in here. Thank you guys for leveraging your unique positions as physicians, all of the schooling, all of the years of, being a physician professionally, that you're leveraging that for the sake of the gospel. Thank you. And it's such a great reminder to the rest of us that every one of us is uniquely positioned wherever we are. I hope that some people in here who are in the medical field will feel inspired to go serve and volunteer at Mercy. But for the rest of us, it's a great reminder that we're all in a unique position to do ministry with the tools we have in the places we are. Will you help me thank Ross and Paul?
That's so good. So I wanted you to hear from a family that felt called or compelled to step into a situation. I wanted you to hear from a couple of men that were uniquely positioned to be able to leverage their work to show love through action. But now I want you to hear why it matters so much and the difference that we can make. This is Greg Lindsay, and Greg's been a part of Athens Church since the Classic Center days and been part of our church. But his life changed dramatically around 20 years ago. And Greg, I would just love for you to share with everyone what life looked like leading up to that change.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Greg. As Bronson said, all my buddies call me Aardvark, so Critter dubbed me that name a few years ago. I was just going to kind of say, I am certainly a recovering alcoholic as well as a recovering Pentecostal. So just kind of get that out of the way. I grew up in a Christian home, Pentecostal home, 2 really loving parents, 2 younger brothers. Had a really good life. I've been to thousands of church services, I would say. And for whatever reason, as a kid and an adolescent, even through my teenage years, I could see that other people felt something and felt connected. And I tried so hard to feel what I perceived they were feeling, but for whatever reason, I just never could feel what I thought other people were feeling. I was baptized at a young age, at age 9, and saved, but for whatever reason I couldn't. So we just kind of going through my teenage years, and I remember having my first alcohol drink of alcohol, or actually a bunch of them, the week before I turned 16, and it's like something just kind of went off in me, and I had that feeling like, so this is what all the people at church, this is the way they must feel. I felt good. I felt like I fit in. I felt accepted. But man, I just used that every opportunity I got. And so I drank every time I could. It was prohibited in my household, so I had to hide it. I had to be dishonest. And, I made it through high school. And by the time I was in my probably second year of college, I was a daily drinker. And, that's just where my life had gotten to. And I had some dreams and aspirations, but alcohol just kind of crushed those. I was engaged. Alcohol took that away, and somehow I made it through 4 years of school, and I got out, and my life just continued to tumble. Within a couple years, I was, I went on to get addicted to painkillers, and I worked for my dad when I did work, and life was just terrible. I mean, I was broken. I couldn't stop, and ultimately, about the age, I think I was probably 31, I found myself in a place I never, ever, ever thought someone like me could end up. I was arrested for possession of some controlled substances and some meth, and my lawyer was able to get me a few years of probation. So I just never slowed down, and I didn't report to probation, and ultimately on February 4, 2004, I was arrested for the last time, and I didn't know what was going to happen. And a judge had previously suggested that I go to some 12-step meetings or possibly treatment, and I remember telling the judge I was just too busy. My schedule just wouldn't allow it. And so I went to jail for 40 days just waiting to see what my fate was going to be.
And after those 40 days, you told me about a significant conversation that you had back with that judge, and I'd love for you to share them.
Certainly. So I had no idea, but I ended up back in front of the same Superior Court judge. This time, my clothing was provided by the state of Georgia, and it was a little different this time. And, I got in there and I saw that judge, and I thought, well, he probably won't remember me. However, he did. And, I remember him telling me that, asking me why he shouldn't send me to prison. And I didn't really have a good reason. And he told me that they were going to give me 10 years because I had got caught with some counterfeit money. And, man, they really frown on that. Just sure enough, they really frown on that. And he said, so we're going to give you 10 years. You're going to have to do 3 of it. He said, but however, we'll suspend that if you'll go to an inpatient treatment center, but you're going to have to stay there a year. He said, and if you don't, I'll see to it that you're remanded back to the state. And, my mom had tried to get me to go to this place called the Potter's House a couple years before. I'd moved back in with them, and she'd even left the application. And, I remember just looking at that thinking, I'm just not going to do it. And I even told her one time, I said, you tell that treatment center that if I can still have this certain substance, I'll come. Just crazy thinking. So that happened. And, ultimately, I got to go on to the Potter's House.
We're actually really big fans of the Potter's House. We've been privileged to partner with them for the last several years through the Athens I Love You season. And if you're not familiar with the Potter's House, it's in Jefferson on a 550-acre farm. It's a 12-month residential treatment program for men chemically addicted. And I love that by the grace of God you were sent there. And I would love for you just to share how your life changed while you're there.
Certainly. So 40 days after I was locked up, my parents, they dropped me off at the Potter's House. Gosh, it must have been on March 15th of 2004. And I was scared, but I was full of hope for the first time. And, even though I was raised in church and had always been to church, what I was able to get from the Potter's House was, I was able to get a personal relationship with Jesus. It was something I'd never been. I'd always kind of been like a grandchild of God, if you will. And he really don't have any grandchildren, only children. So, I learned that I was a child of God, that I could be forgiven, and that, I could live a substance-free, an alcohol-free life and have a good life. So it just kind of rocked on there. And then there was a pretty significant deal that happened. I was just full of resentment and hate. I've got two brothers. I was really full of resentment and hate towards one of my brothers. I mean, just indescribable resentment and hate. And I thought it would always be that way and it would never go away. And, we'd been estranged for quite some time. And they notified me that I had a visitor one day. And we had visitors on Sundays. And I walked upstairs not knowing who to expect to see because my parents, I knew they weren't coming. So I had no idea who the visitor was. And, I look across the cafeteria and there stood my brother. And, man, it was like instantly the resentment melted. And that's been almost 20 years ago and it's never, ever returned. And what I learned from that, if I just learned about forgiveness, And that was the single thing that impacted me the most there. And, so I stayed there for a year and, you fast forward almost 20 years and here I sat with a life that I didn't even think was possible.
Well, we're really proud of you, first of all. Greg's been sober for 20 years now. He owns his own business. Yeah. Really awesome. He owns his own business. He's deeply involved in the recovery community, and he's a big part of our church. And it's evident that God's been at work in your life, and I'm so glad that you were able to find freedom in Christ through the Potter's House. So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story. And will you help me let Greg know how much we appreciate him one more time? And that's why today is so important. Because there's Gregs all over our city. There's men, there's women, there's children who need to experience the love of God. And while we would love for them all to come here every week and experience that love, we know that it's through our partnerships that a lot of them will find that love. And so we have an opportunity as a church to come alongside some organizations and make a really, really big deal. And so I want to remind us of a passage of Scripture as we get ready to give together financially to make a difference in lives throughout our city that we've reminded you of every year for the last 12 years. And this is 1 Timothy chapter number 6. The Apostle Paul says, "Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share." And I think he says command because it doesn't naturally happen. And so we're to be generous, willing to share, and be rich in good deeds. And so over the next couple of weeks, you're going to hear about opportunities to participate in collection efforts and service projects that we've organized with our partners. But today specifically, we're going to ask you to give financially and to be generous and willing to share. And this is what it looks like. For all of October and all of November, we're going to give away 10% of everything that we've received as a church. So when you support your local church and give to God here, know that you're also making a difference in the lives of people through our partners. But we want to be more generous than that. And so in addition to that, we're going to take a special Athens I Love You offering today. And so we have a big goal. And it's not around an amount, it's around a participation percentage. And so today we want 100% participation. And so we want everyone in the room, everyone that's watching this, calls Athens Church home, to give. And specifically, we've been asking you to give the same amount for the last 12 years, no inflation, right? We're going to ask you to give $39.95, and together we can have a massive impact. Now, I don't want you to get caught up on the amount, all right? If $39.95, if you can't afford that for whatever reason, then just give what you can. But we want everyone to give something. But some of you could give $39.95 for everyone in your household. And some of you could move the decimal a time or two or even 3 to the right, knowing that together we can make a big dent in the needs in our city by partnering with these nonprofits and putting wind in their sails. And so we're going to encourage you. We're going to put a QR code on the screen to go ahead and take your phone. And before you leave service today, we would love for you to scan this QR code. It's going to take you to a giving page, specifically to give to the Athens I Love You Fund. Now, if for whatever reason you find a different avenue to our normal giving page, we want to point out that we need you to select the Athens I Love You Fund to give to, so we can make sure 100% of your gift goes to our local nonprofit partners. If for some reason you prefer to give by cash or check, or you need help giving with a card, we've got giving stations in the lobby, and so we'd love for you to take advantage of that. But college students as well, right? This isn't out of reach for you to be part of it, and together we can make a big difference. The truth is, it may feel overwhelming at times to maybe foster kids or start a nonprofit, but we can all take a step to give financially as we wrestle with those things as well. So let me pray for us, and then we're going to give together. Lord, thank you for these nonprofits that we get to partner with, and thank you for the opportunity to remind ourselves that you've blessed us in such ways that we can be generous and we can be willing to share. And we can have pity on needs around us, and we can take action and not simply make statements. And so I pray that you would use our gifts today to be a blessing and to meet needs throughout our city, and ultimately lead people like Greg to experience your love in ways they never have before. In Christ's name, amen. Well, I hope that you'll be back next week as we kick off a brand new series with Clay Scroggins. Until then, let's all give together. God bless you.